Welcome to my very first monthly progress report. Though I have done budget with me's in the past and I've gone over my debt in the past since I've had my channel up, which has been about 3 months now, the monthly progress reports are going to be a lot more structured. They were born out of the budgeting and out of the debt repayment sort of information, but I want to cover in more detail and more depth a couple of different categories. So I want to talk about challenges every month, successes every month, which is where I will talk about paying down my debt, my thoughts and kind of an analysis of where I am right now, plus I'll be sharing any strategies, new tips, anything that I learn, books I read, anything that I think has been helpful to me and would be helpful to you as well. And I'll also be talking about my goals. So I haven't really done that in the past other than just talking about paying off debt, but I do have larger goals than that. So over time, I will be talking a little bit about where it is I want to go, especially as I get further along in my debt journey. And the other big thing that I want to do is encourage all of you to share your stories in the comments. I've been motivated by some of the things that people have said, comments that I've read, and I think other people will be as well. I think this is a whole community, or I want it to be, a community of people who might be in a similar situation, might know someone in a similar situation, but definitely for people who are in a similar situation, trying to pay down debt, trying to get their financial life together. I think that if we can talk in the comment section about our own stories and about our own successes, and any challenges that we faced and things that we've learned, I think that will be beneficial to everyone. So I'm going to start each month with a brief recap of the month before, and then we'll sort of move into challenges, successes, my analysis, and then goals. So before we jump into the rest of the video, I want to take a quick second for a couple of things. One, I want to talk about the cookie of the month in this case. This is the Oreo Caramel Coconut Cream Cookie. And so you can see it's not like a traditional Oreo. Looks like it on the front, but if you look at the cream, it's got little pieces of coconut in it too, and then some of the crumbs all over my hands. But they're delicious. They are absolutely delicious. I'm really on an Oreo kick right now. But the other thing I want to say is if you haven't seen my debt confession, I'm going to link that above so you can take a look at where I started from. I have a $275,000 debt balance hanging over my head right now. That video will detail exactly what that's composed of. And the other thing is just an announcement that I will be doing these progress report videos every month on the first Wednesday of the month. So stay tuned. This is the progress report for August of 2023. So I'm going to do a really brief recap of July. I hadn't really started doing anything in July, so it's pretty short. I really only paid off one debt in July, and it was a $59, very tiny, small credit card debt. But it was the beginning. It gave me some momentum to kind of get started and to get where I am right now. So let's jump into the successes section of the video. So this is my favorite section, of course. I will be talking in this section about how many debts I've paid off to date, how much I've paid off to date, how many and how much I paid off in the previous month, what the composition is of those debts, credit cards versus personal loans, etc., how big my debt snowball is, how much extra I put towards that and how much comes from minimum payments, and a public service loan forgiveness update. Ran out of fingers. All right, so let's start and talk about what we did in August. Okay, so I think this is in frame. All right, so in August, the highlighted sections here are the debts that I've paid off. It says September here because this is actually the balances that I have going into September, how much I'm going to pay this month, minimums, and then the ending balance, what it will be at the end of September. But the big thing I want to focus on are the debts that have already been paid off and then the balances going into the month and how much my total is. So I paid off, as you can see, 3 debts. So first, Finger Hut, which was a very small $59 debt that I paid off in July. And then Indigo, which I paid off in August. And then Moneyline, which is a personal loan, which I paid off in August. Indigo is a credit card. So basically I paid off 2 credit cards, because Finger Hut is a credit card, 2 credit cards and 1 personal loan. In total, I paid off $453 in debt. In August, I paid off $394, and in July, I paid off $59. So another thing I want to mention right here is my 12-month plan to pay off all my credit cards and my personal loans. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link that above as well, so you can take a look at my details about how I'm going to do that. So how big is my debt snowball? Going into September, I'm actually snowballing $195. That's $155 just for my minimums and a $60 snowball payment that I put in every month, and then $40 from a savings challenge that I'm using to pay down debt. As far as my public service loan forgiveness program, I'm now at month 41, so I've made 41 of 120 payments, qualifying payments, towards having the balance of my student loans forgiven. Right now, as some of you may already know, the student loans have been in forbearance for the last 3-ish years due to COVID, and they just came out of forbearance, so interest has started accruing, and we will start making payments in October. So September right now, and in August I paid $0. In October I will restart paying my student loans. Right now I owe $36,339 in non-student loan debt. Including my student loans, I owe $274,177. Minimum payments in September, the month coming up, will be $1,106, and I will have a snowball, as I mentioned, of $195. Together, that's a minimum payment of $1,301 for all of my debts in September. Real talk, this was an unexpectedly expensive month. Let's go through the categories and then we can discuss it. So rent was a little bit under budget at $1,728. Electricity was a little bit under budget at $57. Internet is a standard $55. Car insurance, same thing, $265 every month, the same. Microsoft 365, which is a subscription plan that I have and I share with my daughter and son-in-law, is $11. My security system is $10. Business expenses, that's the first place where there was some significant overspending. That was $131 versus $93. Subscriptions and fees, $47 as budgeted. Jetty, $12. Nutrafol, $0. Savings was $100. Charity donations, $60. Obviously significantly more than the $10 that I had budgeted. There were two things. I run 5Ks and 10Ks, walk them. And there's one that we do every August, but we haven't done for a couple of years, and I completely forgot about it, but I wanted to do it this year, and that was $25 to register for it, so that took me up a little bit. And then I was out and about, and somebody from a charity that I care about was seeking donations, and so I made sort of an on-the-spot $25 donation to that. So charities were obviously, as you can see, above by $50. Gas, I under budgeted by $30, so that was $230 versus $200. Groceries, I was within budget at $125. Personal, $65. I spent actually $75, and that's because I miscalculated how much I was going to need. So ended up $15 over. Miscellaneous, $50. I was within budget on that. Debt, $14.95 versus $13.24 in payments. Car tags, $40, slightly under the $50 I budgeted. A haircut for $55. And then this big giant unexpected expenses category. This is one I'm actually going to have every month. It's one of the pains of starting budgeting is that I really want not to have these come up. And August was definitely a lot bigger than normal. This is a lot of money to be over in just this one category. I'm over mainly because I had to get a pair of glasses last month and have an exam. I have a flexible savings account, but it only had a couple of dollars left in it, and I thought I actually had several $100s left in it to get my glasses and to get an exam, but I was wrong. So I ended up having to pay $218 for my exam, which was a lot of money that I didn't expect to spend. Now, included in here is also $57 for my birthday. I should have budgeted in something for that. It's not a ton of money. I just went to the movies. I actually went to see two movies. I went to see Barbie and Oppenheimer because the day right before my birthday was National Cinema Day and tickets were $4. So they were really inexpensive and I wanted to go. I haven't been to the movie in forever, or to see a movie in forever. But while I was there, I also spent some money on food. Actually, not in the theater, but at Jersey Mike's when I was leaving the theater to take home for that evening, since I don't eat out very much. And I should have budgeted in some money for that, knowing that I just wanted to, have some fast food, which I don't normally eat very often because it's not in that grocery budget. But I didn't do that, and so I ended up spending money on that, and also the lovely candle that I had up here a few minutes ago, my first fall candle, salted pumpkin vanilla, that I got from Home Goods, which was right next to the movie theater conveniently. So I should have budgeted in some money for birthday, and I did not budget anything in for birthday, which was a huge problem. And then the other piece of my unexpected expenses was parking. I actually spent about $19 on parking last month, which is very unusual, but I had a friend come into town. She was only in for, a couple of days, and I wanted to see her while she was here. And we met up at the hotel, or close to the hotel. and that was a couple of dollars in parking, and I had to go to my doctor. That was parking I didn't expect to pay. So that's the kind of thing that, shows up often that people have to deal with, and that I know I will have to deal with. But all in all, this was, not my best month, not a great month. I budgeted $4,200 and, see if you guys can see this, $4,267. I spent $4,848, which is $581 more than I'd budgeted. Now, where does this money come from? I'm not using credit cards, so what am I doing for this extra money? I have a side gig. So I actually deliver food in the evenings and on the weekends. That's what I'm using to, in some cases, pay extra bills like this, and also to pay extra on my credit cards, on my debt payment. But clearly this is a lot more money than I really want to come out of pocket with, even doing my side gig, to pay this month. Comparatively speaking, I certainly, could have paid down more debt if I hadn't been spending money on, well, mostly on glasses. but and some of this is actually debt repayment too. So this whole thing is not just spending. It went towards some of the extra that I spent on debt. But not exactly where I want to spend my money, but more than that, I think it's just getting into this habit of trying to be smart about the budgeting, like knowing that it was my birthday month, thinking about some of the things that I typically do in August, because August is typically a month where I spend a little bit more money because of my birthday and because of the race that I run every August. Not having those things factored in was a huge problem. I did factor in car tags and a haircut, which are both unusual. I don't get haircuts that often, and I certainly only do my tags once a year. So I had those in my budget, but all these other things I did not. Even with my glasses, I hadn't initially anticipated going to the optometrist. That ended up happening later, as I decided I'm going to go do a bunch of my appointments. So within about a week and a half period, I saw maybe 4 different doctors. So that's where some of the money that I had in my flexible savings account went, because I saw several doctors and had co-payments for all of them. So by the time I got to my optometrist, which I believe is the very last medical visit that I had, I was pretty much tapped out on money and had to come out of pocket, which means that for the rest of the year, anything that I have to pay for as far as co-pays or medicine or anything like that, and I do take medicine monthly, I will have to pay for out of pocket, so I will have to make sure that I'm budgeting for that as well. So what are my thoughts this month? Well, I have a couple. One, I have to deal with this beating myself up over unexpected expenses. Yes, I had some unexpected expenses for sure, but I also had some big wins. And I want to make sure that I am taking the time to acknowledge that, which is very difficult for me. I mean, I sit on YouTube, obviously, and see lots of people who paid off debts or are paying off debts in a quick amount of time, a very fast, amazingly fast amount of time. So it becomes a little bit difficult to say, I'm only paying off $500 this month, or I'm only paying off whatever, a couple of $100 this month, or less than that last month. So that becomes a challenge for me as someone who's putting my story out into the world. However, part of the reason that I'm putting my story out into the world is because I know that there are lots of people here who are not paying off $35,000 worth of debt in 12 months. And I'm one of those people too. I hope to pay off $10,000-ish within the next 12 months. And that's not $35,000 as I've seen on some YouTube channels, but it's still progress for me. One of the big lessons that I've learned this month is to make sure I am looking ahead at all the different things that I might be spending money on in the next month. Now, am I going to be perfect at that? Probably not, because I'm still trying to get accustomed to budgeting, so not the best at that, but I am working on it. And one of the things that I learned this month was some months, like August for sure, is a month where I should go into it knowing that I have a couple of things that I'm going to be spending money on, because as I said earlier, because of my birthday, and also because of my car tags, because of the race that I like to run, which is a charity run in August, just all the things. And so that's one of the lessons that was really brought home to me this month, was to make sure that I'm looking ahead at all the things in the month to make sure that I am not forgetting something. Another big win for me is not using credit cards. I cut up all my credit cards, as I've mentioned a gazillion times, so I'm not using them, and I just think that I'm not acknowledging to myself how big of a deal it is that I'm no longer using my credit cards. And I used to use my credit cards for the smallest of things. I mean, I would go to Chick-fil-A and use my credit card to buy food. So the fact that I am no longer using them is a huge deal. Will, of course, get me to my debt payoff goal faster. but it's just a big deal in general because it's been such a fallback for me for such a long time. Okay, and another huge win for me is staying within my grocery budget. I know I've seen a couple of comments from people who say, how in the world do you do a $25 a week grocery budget? Well, I mean, the truth is that I go to Aldi, and on top of going to Aldi, I am not spending money on super expensive meals. My treats, of course, are my sugary treats, like my cookies, because I do want to eat those things. I do like them. But I don't eat a lot of super expensive food. I don't eat a lot of snacks, all of that stuff. And I think that saves me some money. But, shopping in Aldi, being able to shop in Aldi, which I know a lot of people know about but don't necessarily have near their home. If you do have one near your home and you're really trying to save money, I would suggest going in there and getting kind of a set menu of things that are inexpensive that you're going to eat. Like I tend to do, it's going to be pasta. It's going to be spaghetti with meat sauce, thus a little bit of money on meat. It's going to be burgers. So I am going to be treating myself to some, money on burgers. It's going to be tuna salad. I'm doing a lot of that. It's going to be things like that are inexpensive but will get me to my goal faster because I'm not spending so much money on food. Now, I am thinking about adding a little bit of money to my budget for fast food because I'm spending it. I'm not spending a lot, but I'm spending some of it. And as opposed to, having it come up randomly in my budget, putting a little bit of money aside for fast food is something that I am considering doing so that I can have it maybe twice a month. Another big win for me right now is just paying off 3 debts. Where I started a couple of months ago, I was in 18 debts. Now I have 15 debts. And it's not a huge ton of progress because I have so many debts, but it is something. And I want to give myself some credit for doing that. And I think that, for other people who are in the same position that I'm in, if you're paying off a little bit of debt, whatever you can do, give yourself some credit for that. I mean, maybe you've just stopped using the credit card. Maybe you've reduced using the credit card. Maybe you've paid off one of your smaller credit cards. Just any small thing, and paying off a credit card is actually kind of a big thing. So actually ignore that one. If you even reduce the amount of money that you use on a credit card, that's a win. It's a huge win. We just live in a world where you use credit cards so often. Any small amount of, or any small change that you can make that leads you away from possibly going into more debt, the more you should pat yourself on the back for that. And a very interesting thing that I'm dealing with right now is I am dating. And I've noticed that dealing with the shame of having debt and dating is a very real thing. This might be a thing with anybody at any age, but for sure at my age, I was married for 20 plus years. So I was in a relationship building and having a family and taking care of the family and all this stuff in my 20s and 30s. But now that I'm single and out in my divorce and single and out in my 50s, a lot of people are very established in life, and I find it very embarrassing to have the kind of debt that I have right now and carry that around. I'm not wearing it on my sleeve. I'm not telling people as soon as I meet them, hey, guess what? I've got like almost $40,000 in debt, and then $275,000 if you count all the money that I have in student loan. No, I'm not announcing that to the world. And I know that I have to acknowledge the fact that I'm doing something responsible about it and I'm trying to pay it down. And that is a big deal. But is it still shameful or embarrassing to me internally? Like, yes, it is. It is. And that's something that I have to acknowledge and that I am working on. So now I want to hear from you, my viewers. Please, in the comments below, if you feel comfortable, please in the comments below, leave your successes, maybe a little bit about your story. I realize, I'm a faceless YouTube channel, so I certainly understand not wanting to tell the world and all these strangers your entire story. If there are maybe some successes that you feel comfortable sharing, or some tips and strategies, or some ideas, for things that people could do differently, or just knowing that there are other people in the same situation as you and letting them know that you understand would be useful, would be helpful. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about goals. So my short-term goal for next month is to pay down one credit card for sure and to make a pretty good dent in another smaller credit card. Those are my goals. If I can exceed those, then that's fantastic, but my short-term goals are just to get through that, which is part of my 12-month Conquering Credit Card Debt plan. So in terms of longer-term goals, one of the biggest things I have is to make sure that I'm saving some money in an emergency savings fund. So that is one of the things that I'm working on right now and have been working on for the last 2 months. If this video has in any way been useful for you, please give it a like and subscribe. Thank you so much for being here and for listening to all of this month. I will see you next month in my next progress report. Bye.